Hello YouTube, welcome to a new installment of the Hypertrophy series. Today we are going to be discussing how to balance mentally taxing exercises not only within sessions but also within your program so that it is smartly crafted to last you through the week and not interfere between sessions basically. If you don't know what I mean by mentally taxing, I encourage you to visit the Natural Hypertrophy playlist. I made a video in this series where I discuss physically versus mentally draining. So, I think that we should start with discussing the science of mentally taxing exercises. Because it's an aspect of recovery that people don't really understand or they ignore, but it's more important than you might think. There is more to a lift than what it does to your body. It's also important to think about what it does to your mental. Certain people are going to be able to approach a lift with a very high level of confidence, and therefore the lift is not going to spike your stress level, it's not going to spike your cortisol level, and it's going to have very little impact on your psyche. On the other hand, certain lifts you might not feel comfortable with and are going to be very difficult to recover from. Why? Because they might shatter your confidence because you fell on them again and again, or they might tax you mentally because they stress you out. And the easy way out would be to just kick them out of your training. But I have found that usually lifts that stress us change us because we know it's the ones that challenge us the most. Right now, for me, the big lift that stresses me the most is the squat. Why? Because I've been dealing with very annoying issues with my squat. But I also know that these issues are there because I have a glaring weak spot that I need to work on. So if I give up on that to spare my psyche, then I'm going to just lose on some gains I could be making. So, within the same session, I think that you need to be thinking about it in the sense of mental stamina economy and when to release maximum energy. Of course, it means that you will be tempted to put the mentally taxing exercise at the very start. And I always advise you do that. So you're going to start with your compound movement because usually it is the strength work that is the most stressful. Depending on how many reps you're going to do, depending on how stressful that might be, you might or might not want to have other mentally taxing exercises within the same session. But depending on your individual disposition, it can be a good thing because you might have lifts that don't tax you enough mentally. So you still have some energy in the tank that you could be spending on another lift. Examples from my training. Bench is nothing for me. It doesn't stress me out at all. I don't care. So on the day where I do my bench, I also do my overhead press because an overhead press is also a heavy compound movement that is going to stress me. If I don't do an overhead press on the bench, I am going to do a massive amount of volume because you can still compound a lot of mental strain without having a certain lifts that triggers your stress levels. Doing a ton of work is also going to participate in that because it drains you mentally. If you've done very long training sessions, you know what I mean. By the time you're almost done, your body might still be fresh, you might still be ready to kick butt, but your brain is foggy, you're lacking focus, you just want to be done. That's what I mean when I talk about your mental stamina. And you will find that as a natural bodybuilder, you can push your work capacity to a point where it's going to vastly surpass the ability of your body to work, basically, in a sense where it might get to the point where what is limiting you rather is not the ability of your body to move, but the ability of your brain to tell your body to move. that's a good thing because it means you really pushed your limits, but you're also going to find that it's going to limit you because your body still needs that extra stimulus to grow. And if your brain shuts down because you're completely burnt out, you're not going to be able to get to that place. So within the same session, this is how you think about it. If you have something on the other hand that is very stressful, it should be followed by stuff that is less stressful. And a lot of the time, what people will do, whether they realize it or not, they will basically make it like a staircase where they're going to start with the high stress stuff, and then the sets that follow up are going to be slightly less stressful, and then less stressful, etc., etc. So usually what it would mean practically is they start with a compound, then they do a variation, then they do an accessory, then they do isolation movements with cables. That's pretty standard. The issue you're going to find with this is that you're going to become complacent the more the workout advances, because you build the workout to have the crown jewel of your training at the top, and then the stuff you care less about at the bottom. Because the truth is, stuff that is mentally taxing is usually stuff that you care deeply about, you want to progress on, and therefore you're going to attach a lot of self-worth to the lift, and if you fail, it's going to make you feel like a dump, and therefore you're going to put a ton of adrenaline into that lift to get it. But the side effect of that is that the lifts that follow by default are the ones you don't really care about, and that is dangerous as a bodybuilder. Every exercise of your training should be as important, and the reason why is because you will find out that if you do that staircase format, what's going to happen is you're going to have a tendency to skip those last stairs. Let's be honest with yourself. How many times have you skipped your compound movements? And how many times have you skipped your isolation stuff, your fluff and puff? Most likely you skip the isolation all the time. Why? Because it's at the end of the workout, you're already tired, you're telling yourself, oh, I did the heavy stuff, so I don't need that, and you go home. But that's not the right mindset. So what I would advise you to do is don't think about it like a staircase, think about it more like not necessarily a pyramid, but spikes. You want to start super high here, and then if you need to go down there to recover from the mental strain of the strength work, it's fine, but don't keep going down. You need to have a little spike in stress once in a while in the training during the session so that you keep your interest perked. And that can be, for example, keeping an exercise you really like doing, but that's also stressful later in the workout, so that you have to go through the rest of the stuff to get to that your favorite, the stuff that you like doing. But that is going to be 100% up to you. It's called discipline. It cannot be taught. You have to do it. That's within the session. Within the week, this is where it becomes more macro, and this is for me the most important part, but also the most simple. You do not want to have several high mentally draining days in a row. You cannot follow up too many days that are very mentally taxing, because you're going to underperform or get injured or get just burnt out. Just as it is very important to not have two exercises that are mentally taxing follow each other within the session, you don't want to have your two most taxing, draining days following up one after the other. Because I guarantee you that the second day you're going to suffer and you're not going to be 100%. And even if we expand on that logic, within the same week, if Monday is super stressful, then having another stressful day on Wednesday is going to be subpar. It's going to be inefficient. But you're going to be stuck in the sort of the dilemma of having to work heavy, wanting to do compound movements, especially lower body compound movements, but knowing also that the first day you do it in the week is going to be super good, but the days that follow suffer. This is why personally I have my lower body days on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. That way, after my heavy lower body day, I can rest on the Sunday and be fresh on Monday. I get the Monday to be super fresh, and then I get Tuesday where I do my first lower body, so that the window of time where I do my heavy stuff and the what is mentally taxing is shrunk. But it's going to also be up to your split, whether you do a split or not. You might not do that. Your training program and how you manipulate it. And that you're not going to be able to learn that from books. You're not going to be able to learn that from me. If you want to see how I deal with mentally taxing exercises and how I play around with it in my program, check out my program. You're going to learn from that, but you're not going to be able to replicate that for you. You need to apply it yourself and see what works. And of course, that's also going to be prioritization of what matters the most. For me right now, my quads are big enough. I don't really need to work them that much, but I still want them to maintain. Which means that because I want bigger hamstrings, I'm going to prioritize deadlifts before squats. And because both deadlifts and squats are very highly mentally taxing, now I have a way to make them work within the program because I can go a little bit lighter on the squats, put more emphasis on the deadlift. If I was stuck in a situation where both squats and deadlifts were as important, I would be at a crossroads. I would need to really change my program. But even though, and what we're talking about here is something that is going to be more relevant once you become more advanced and you train more often, but it is present in your training whether you want to realize it or not. And in my opinion, being aware of these notions and knowing they're there is better than just being blind and just hoping for the best. You might not need to invest lots of time studying it right now. You might not even need to change your program. But I hope that this video helps you keep in mind that notion so that you can assess the way the lifts affect your mental and hopefully learn something from it that's going to help you make more gains. So that's it for the video. I will also make a video for physically taxing lifts and how to put them in your program so that you can make maximum progress and not let it hinder your progression. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.